Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to the live tonight. I'm going to be talking about fish oil or flax oil and which is the best to actually choose. There's a long-standing debate about fish oil versus flax oil and which are the better options. Well, both are essential fatty acids, so they contain omega-3. The advantage of flaxseed oil is that it actually contains omega-6 as well, so you've got omega-3 and 6 in flax oil. Obviously fish oil is from a fish, so you've got different variations of that, so salmon oils or any other types of fish oil. Flax oil is a plant extract, so you've obviously got different types of plant extracts, and flax oil is just one of those plant extracts that you can use. Essential fatty acids are crucial really for good health in all animals. Basically we can't manufacture omega-3 ourselves, so we have to supplement it in our diet, so anything that's kind of got good fats in there, or we obviously use a supplement like fish oil or flaxseed oil. It helps with lots of different functions, so that's kind of like circulation, digestion, helps with mobility, coat. It helps regulate metabolism as well, which is fantastic. Like I say, it needs to kind of like be put into our diet on a daily basis. Obviously low in cholesterol, which is really important as well. It's called a PUFA, so a PUFA, so that actually is a like I say, a polyunsaturated fat. And like I say, they're really required for good health in all animals. So which do we actually go for? So fish oil has got something called a long chain fatty acid. That's very different to flax oil, which actually has got a short chain fatty acid. So a long chain fatty acid basically is something called alpha linoleic acid and linoleic acid. Without getting into too technical sort of detail, there are different like carbon bonds and how they're broken down. There's a great debate actually at the moment, and has been continuing for a while actually, about flax and any plant extract, but flax oil especially, because it's actually fed quite a lot in dog foods and the supplements, as to whether or not it can be metabolized efficiently and correctly, especially in dogs. Because of the way it is metabolized, it does need to be broken down by the body. A fish oil consists of omega-3, which is EPA and DHA. That in itself actually is already, because it's from a fish, it's from a living thing, it's actually already been broken down. So it's readily kind of available when you feed it as a supplement. So it's not got the work from ALA and LA to actually be broken down to DHA and EPA. And the long-standing debate is whether or not dogs actually can break down, metabolize from ALA to these two, EHA and DPA. In short, what actually is lacking, mainly in canines, are enzymes that actually can like desaturate and elongate the carbon bonds from long chain fatty acids to short chain fatty acids. That mainly is down to diet. So if you're feeding your dog a really nutritious, fresh diet that contains a lot of the enzymes and proteins that are necessary, it will actually be able to quite effectively break down and metabolize the form of EPA and DHA that is readily found in fish oil. Like I say, the diet needs to be fresh. It needs to actually contain a lot of the nutrients to be able to actually break it down efficiently. It's a difficult one, because some people actually just kind of say fish oil is the best thing since sliced bread. You have a lot of issues with fish oil in terms of like toxins, so obviously mercury, leads, those kind of things, so those kind of issues. So unless you're actually getting a fish oil that's actually been sourced from a fresh water, the likelihood is it's actually going to contain toxins. And from that can actually cause a lot of other health issues alongside of it. So it's a school of thought. Some people prefer feeding fish oil because it is actually in the form that it can be metabolized and absorbed correctly and efficiently and straight away, rather than the dog having to break it down like it does with the flaxseed oil. If you're thinking about feeding any supplement, obviously look at all the different options. So obviously if you want to feed a fish oil, then make sure that you are getting one that's actually like from a fresh farm, that's not got any sort of like toxins, because any sea fish is going to actually contain some sort of like toxin in there, which, like I say, can be actually quite harmful for your dog. The flaxseed oil that we actually use, because again, there are different grades of flaxseed oil. So it's important to actually get one that actually is cold pressed, and it's from a almost like akin to organic, so a farm that is like Red Tractor, DEFRA approved. The flax oil that we use is from such a farm, so it's quite pure in its nature, so there's no residual kind of like toxic effect in there. We have all of our flax examined, we have it tested to make sure there is no kind of like contamination or any sort of like residual toxins in there. So one thing with a plant extract, and especially our flaxseed oil, is that when you are feeding it, there is no toxicity in there whatsoever, so it's not going to have any harmful effect. The omega-3 is vital. When it's actually metabolized and absorbed correctly, it's very anti-inflammatory, which is obviously one major consideration, that inflammation can be the cause of a lot of disease. So to actually be given something that's quite anti-inflammatory is fantastic. Omega-6 is in flax oil as well. It's not so much in fish oil. So the balance of omega-3 and omega-6 is when it's actually in the correct balance, is very effective, and especially with the digestive enzymes and actually breaking down to metabolize correctly. Then we add in, with our particular products, we add in obviously the herbal ingredients as well. So you've got the added nutrition from the active herbs in there that will help, again, with the metabolization and the absorption of the flaxseed oil. So providing you're feeding a fairly fresh diet, then there shouldn't be a lot of issue with the absorption. Sometimes you will have dogs that are a little bit resistant to flax oil. They don't like it, don't like the taste of it. So obviously then fish oil is an alternative. But the main dilemma is really in terms of metabolization and actually how it's absorbed. So, be rest assured, if you're feeding your dog a really healthy, natural diet, and you're looking after its health in the correct manner by feeding flax oil, you have no real issue with your dog actually metabolizing it correctly. The nutrients that are required for that, for the absorption, are like vitamin B6, B7, copper, calcium, magnesium, zinc and iron. All of our herbal ingredients actually include those minerals. So again, that actually aids the absorption to make sure that your dog is getting the very, very best that it can out of our particular products. I think that's it, really. Unless anyone's got any questions, then obviously please fire them at me. I'm obviously open to any questions. I mean, obviously there's an awful lot more involved in terms of the different carbon bonds and how long chain and short chain fatty acids actually work. A lot of high grain diets are very, very high in omega-6. So if you are feeding maybe a dried food diet, then it's quite high in grain. It'll be very high in omega-6. So there is a concern, obviously, feeding an omega-6 with an omega-3, you're with an oil supplement, that you're actually overdoing the omega-6. But because it's a very absorbable fat, actually your dog will actually make the most of it and then obviously dispel whatever it doesn't need. So that isn't really an issue. But because you do need to feed a fresh diet to get the best out of flaxseed oil, I will say. Also omega-3 with flaxseed oil, you've got 60% of omega-3 and about 19% of omega-6. So it's actually the correct balance. It should be like 1, 2, 3 with canines in order for them to actually get the best out of it. So that's where flax oil is great at that plant extract in itself. So that's great. Fish oil is about 28-30% of omega-3. So, it's obviously not as high a content. Lots and lots of studies actually that have been done over the years on fish oil versus flax oil. Well, they'll say that fish oil is more readily available in the EPA DHA form, and that is actually correct. You won't get as much of a conversion, even with the best diet, out of flaxseed oil. You will get probably in a good diet with the digestion working correctly, probably about half the amount that you would with fish oil. But then you have to weigh up the odds between the two as to the toxic element to the fish oil, as to whether or not you feel that is something that you want to consider, or whether you want to know that you're giving your dog a very pure, natural product that's got no toxins in it whatsoever. Which obviously you would have with a really, really good flax oil. In terms of like lignans, there's a big issue as well that people kind of say about flaxseed oil having lignans in it. That's actually from the flaxseed itself. That's not actually from the flax oil. Lignans actually are part of the flax shaft itself. So when you grind that down, there's quite a lot of the protein and fibre and lignans in that. Lignans are a hormone base. So obviously if you are considering feeding any sort of like ground flax seeds, then probably not the best thing to do if you've got a dog that's pregnant or nursing. With pure cold pressed flaxseed oil, you are removing the lignans. You're not using any of the chaff whatsoever. So you probably have about 0.1% of lignans in there. However, we still say don't feed it to pregnant and nursing dogs, which obviously, is something that no one probably would want to do, because you wouldn't want to have the risk of obviously any kind of like hormones in there. If anybody's got any further questions, then obviously I'm open to them, like I said last week. So just fire me any sort of questions that you might have, and I'll duly answer them. One thing with all of our products, which I actually forgot to mention last week, is that every bottle is got between 20 to 25% on volume of our herbal ingredients in there. That's quite a significant amount in any sort of like pet supplement, especially because they're in their active like form. So with the flaxseed oil, because obviously flaxseed oil by itself, you might have more of an issue with converting, but obviously with that volume of active ingredients with a nutritional aspect of it in there as well, you're giving your dog the best chance really to be able to get the best EPA DHA actually out of the product itself. So it's very different to feeding a flax oil by itself and feeding Proflax products, because of the very nature of them, the difference of them, and what they include. Like I say, please do pop me a message if you'd like to answer any questions, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for tuning in.